What's good, everybody? What's good, everybody? It's Big Game James, man. I'm back in the building, and we at the season finale, man. And we playing them Commanders, and me and my guy George Carmi. We were supposed to get it in last time, but some things came up. But that's okay. We're here now, and I'm glad because this is one of the best content creators, in my opinion, regardless of the team or anything. You need to check him out. I know he's Washington, I know, but you need to check him out, man. This guy is thorough what he does, and I'm glad we're about to come on the show because I'm asking a whole lot of questions. But before we get into that, how you doing, George? How's everything going? And what's up?
I'm good, man. Good to have good. First of all, thank you for having me, man. It's awesome catching up with you. The feeling's mutual, James. I love talking to you, man. Good times. Even though you're a Cowboy fan, it's awesome having these conversations with you. Awesome talking to you. Things are good, man. It's going to be interesting. It's been a down year in Washington. I'm sure we'll talk about all that on the show today. But health wise, I'm good. Life's good, so can't complain, bro. So everything's all good.
Yeah, that's good to hear. That's good to hear. So obviously we know it's the season finale. Commanders, Cowboys. We saw what happened last year when you guys kind of pulled. I don't know if it was really pulled the upset because we sat a lot of our starters and we really didn't go hard because we had already kind of clinched. But this was the game to me that really gave Sam Howell his career because he played really good in that game, and that was pretty much leapfrog him into being the starter this year. Now, before I ask any questions, me and my guy Joe, you know Joe, and
Yeah, of course.
we did our beginning of the season predictions of all the teams. And
Yep.
I said the biggest thing when I talked about the Giants and the Commanders, I said the Giants were going to take a step back because I didn't believe them. But
Me
I
neither.
said the key for Washington was Sam Howell. I said if Sam Howell has a good season, Washington will have a good season. I said if Sam Howell does not have a good season, Washington will not. Kind of give me your thoughts on Sam Howell as a quarterback, and what do you feel about him?
That's a great perspective, man. I totally agree with you as well. I like Sam Howell. I think a lot of people in our community like Sam Howell as well. The question is he going to be that elevated elite quarterback? I think it's pretty safe to say he's a solid starter in the league. He's a high end backup in the league. He's a quality player, but people don't really know where he's going to go, where his trajectory is going to be. I think you nailed it, man. I think the Giants going into the season were kind of a fraud. I think they kind of like were a year ahead of where they were supposed to be last year. So they're kind of catching up to their talent now. Their coaching is pretty good, but their talent really isn't there. With Washington, it was all about Sam Howell. And the story going into the year was, why is Washington hitching their wagon to a fifth round draft pick, right? People were kind of
Mhm.
considering about that. Why were they doing that? What's going on? But as you saw with this year, I think Sam Howell has the skill. I think he does. I think he has a pretty ball. I think he can throw it deep. I think he's functionally mobile. He's pretty tough. He's a great locker room guy. But I just think like as the year went on, we started to see better talent against him, like playing against the 49ers, playing against the Cowboys. You start seeing some holes in his game. And going back to North Carolina, he basically would hold the ball on. He would hold on to the ball too long. We
Mhm.
would start to see some ghosts a little bit. He just kind of seemed overwhelmed at times. So I think that's
Mhm.
kind of where it was. And I think it's funny because if Washington was like drafted like in the 16th or the 17th, pick in the draft, I think people would be content with keeping Sam Howell and kind of building
Mhm.
around him. But I think
Mhm.
with the opportunity they're picking so high and picking at number two, it's like, this opportunity is so few and far between. Why don't we try to like actually go for the goal? I think that's kind of where we're at there. So it's like Sam Howell's kind of polarizing, but I think people are ready to like, hey, if we have the opportunity, go big. I think it's kind of where we're at right now.
Now, let me ask you this: if it's the situation with Sam Howell, you draft a quarterback right high, would you think about? Would you think the team is going to say, okay, well, we already have some tape on Sam Howell. Now we got this top pick. Now, can we wheel and deal Sam Howell, or we want to keep him as a backup? What do you think that situation would be?
That's going to be interesting, right? So I think, in actuality, you would love in a dream scenario to flip Sam Howell, right? Like, if you're a
Mm-hmm.
GM, if you're that cold blooded business perspective in the NFL, flip him for a second or a third. But to be honest with you, James, do second or third is kind of optimistic, maybe a
Right,
fourth, maybe a fifth for
right.
him. And is it worth it at that point, right? Like, I think at that point, you kind of keep him in house because he's dirt cheap. I think he's like 600K, 700K per
Mm-hmm.
season, and he's a pretty solid quarterback, right? And we're seeing in this league, we're seeing Jake Brownings, and we're seeing Nick Mullins around the league. Like, you tend to get to a second quarterback in the NFL, so it's very valuable to have a backup. And with our like turnstile in DC having quarterbacks every single year, why
Mm-hmm.
not cover your bases, right? Why not have Sam Howell in the farm system, kind of practicing, getting going? So let's say we draft someone number two, or let's say we get offensive tackle at number two. You can have someone in that system kind of to develop. So I say keep them. I think it's probably the better thing to do. But like, if the opportunity is there, go for it because I'm sure we'll talk about it today. We have Josh Harris as our owner. He's
Mm-hmm.
all about trusting the process and kind of tearing it all down and building it up. So we'll see how it goes.
Right, right. So that's interesting. So here's my thing. This is what I wanted to ask you before we actually talk about our matchup.
Sure.
You got Ron Rivera, right? We've seen his time since here in Washington, been kind of uneven, up and down. Some games look good, some games no. You just talked about the new ownership has just taken over. What do you feel the next step is? Is Ron Rivera going to be your coach? Because I need some intel. I know my Cowboys fans. We need some intel on Washington. Are they moving on from Ron Rivera in your opinion? Is a Bill Belichick thing real? What's that process? Do you think in that aspect of the coaching and going into next year?
So I think it's a foregone conclusion that Ron Rivera is gone. Like if people are talking about it openly in our media, people, Ron Rivera is having these kind of like faded, kind of sad questions that he's answering during the press conferences. Like it's almost assumed that he's going to be gone. I guess the biggest question right now is it's his birthday tomorrow. Like are they going to fire him on his birthday? Is what it comes down to. So like I don't know if they're going to go that route with it, but I'm pretty sure they are. Mm-hmm. They'll probably wait till Monday, maybe give him that one day of grace to kind of let him kind of chill out a little bit. But like I think they're going to fire him. And it's kind of a sad story because Ron Rivera came to DC. To be honest with you, he came at a really ugly time. I don't know if you remember the context, but it was like Jay Gruden. He was 0-5. He had 5 midway through the season. They had Bill Callahan as the coach for a couple, for the rest of the year. Bruce Allen. There were lawsuits against us. All sorts of kind of crazy stuff going on. So when we got Ron Rivera, we were kind of like, damn, we're actually lucky to get someone a two-time coach of the year in the NFL, an established veteran, someone that's been around for a while. But I think what happened with Ron is he is a motivator. Like we talked about, I talked about it before, James. He's a motivator, mm-hmm. not necessarily an X&O kind of guy. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, I think after the years, his voice and his message was starting to fall on deaf ears. And I think it's kind of at that point now. I think basically we started to lose. His motivation tactics weren't working. Josh Harris, he's a big, innovative, analytical guy. So he basically got rid of Montez Sweat and Chase Young halfway through the year. And I think basically our team was kind of punted halfway through the year. I think really we were a 7-win team this year, but we just punted halfway through the year. That's why I got so ugly so fast. I think that's where we're at right now. So I think Ron Rivera's gone. I think there's some wheels in motion. There's some whispers here or there about getting a GM. And I think Josh Harris, what I like about him, he's a team builder. He has the Sixers, he has the New Jersey Devils. From what I'm gathering, he's going to basically hire a GM first and then basically have them hire a coach. And I'm pretty sure the GM's already kind of, there's already some pretty significant talks about a GM. I think that's where we're at right now.
Yeah. And it seems like Josh Harris is a pretty good, from what I've seen, it's night and day with him and Daniel Snyder. And maybe now your Commanders fan base feels finally, now we can breathe, and now we have somebody who seems like he cares and just is not so egotistical maniac. At least that's what I was feeling like Dan Snyder was. But it looks like there's hope now in Washington, and we talked about, me and Joe, we talked about y'all have a good base of a team. Y'all had a good front line. Y'all had some good players in the fold. But it really looked like you just really had to remove, I ain't hating on Ron Rivera, but it looked like you just had to start all, like you said, start all over. You got a new owner, just start it all over. You got a high draft pick, and let's just break it down and start over. And let's just go from there. Because when I saw the Chase Young and Montez Sweat, that's when I kind of knew, okay, yeah, this is kind of rebuild mode. If you let these guys go, I know contracts were coming up, but still, those were still kind of a basis. So this kind of seemed like that from my perspective. Now, let's talk about this matchup, big dog.
Let's do it.
Where are y'all on your injury report? Because I've seen Deron Payne. He hadn't practiced. Is he? I mean, not Deron Payne, Jonathan Allen. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Is he going to be playing in this game?
No. So I think from what I understand.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yeah. So Jonathan Allen, he's not going to play. From what I understand, Kendall Fuller is not going to play.
Yes.
There's a couple other significant significant starters that aren't going to play. From the Washington's perspective, we have to protect ourselves legally and we have to protect ourselves optically across the NFL. But I think we're trying to give you this game on a silver platter, right? I think we're
please do. Please.
I'm sure you guys feel that. I'm pretty happy about that. I'm sure you guys are happy about that. Yeah, I think like I said, Josh Harris is somebody that this game is important for us, but for draft purposes, which is totally the opposite end of the spectrum for where you guys are at. I don't know if you guys are keeping tabs in Dallas land. But
see, I like hearing that, George. I didn't mean to cut you off. See, I wasn't paying attention to that part of it when you said right there. So y'all here listening, Cowboys fans, this is good for us.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So Dallas fans, we are we are as a Washington fan. There's like a small segment of like those emotional fans. We're like, we want to win. We got to beat Dallas no matter what. Like that's not me, and most of the people most of the logic people, the content creators, were like, we want to lose this game because I don't know if you guys know, but it's on the fence. Like between the Patriots and Washington, there is basically it's a strength of schedule tiebreaker for the second overall pick. We have the same record right now. So we have to lose this game to get number 2 overall. And we also have to have a couple other things fall in our favor for for us to stay at number 2. We need the Saints to win, a couple other people here or there to basically go down. So it's like we are kind of concerned. Like we would like to lose this game because I think we want that opportunity for number 2 overall pick. And we're all football fans here, right? The Bears have the number 1 pick, right? So let's say they go Marvin Harrison Jr. or they go somewhere else at number 1. We would love to have Caleb Williams fall in our laps or someone like, or even Drake May, right? Or something like that. So I think, as a veterans, veterans are taking the week off. Veterans are going to, make business decisions. Like they want to go into the season with a, free contract. Curtis Samuels, I love him, but he's going to be on a contract this year. Fuller. Like we'll see if these guys actually play the full games. We'll see how that goes. But I think it's politics.
I like hearing that because see, I wasn't, in depth as far as the draft picks, wins and losses, who can move up and down. But that's why I'm glad I have you on here because it's opened my eyes to the perspective now. Because I ain't gonna lie. I was a little worried about this game just for the simple fact we're going into Washington. Washington, we know the Washington Cowboys thing. We saw last year how y'all guys played. Y'all took it to a next level when y'all played us in that game and kind of whooped our butts. So, and I feel like Cowboys need to go in on a high note going into the playoffs, winning on the road. We like momentum going in there. So I was wondering, what is it going to be looking like on the Washington side as far as playing us? But when I hear all this from this side, that y'all more like, hey, we trying to. This is next year now. This is on next year now. There ain't no this year. We trying to make it happen. Caleb Williams, Drake May, those type of things. So the effort. I mean, not really say the effort, but people are making more business decisions right now. Do you think on the offensive side of the ball? I want to ask you on the offensive side of the ball. Is Sam Howell going to be the starter? Or is it going to be Jacoby Brissett?
Yeah, so I'll jump on that in a second. Okay. So first of all, the chat's blowing up, man. What's up?
You brought them, bro. You brought them. I tell everybody, y'all bring them. I'm just James. Y'all bring them.
I want to throw it to my boy Carlos. I see Carlos is always on here. I appreciate Carlos for jumping on. I always see him in different chats and stuff. What's up, Carlos? He asked me a question about veterans going in this season. I think there's going to be a lot of turnover, I think, in Washington. I think that right now going into the season, we have $90 million under the salary cap, which is awesome. $90 million. I think we have legitimately the most in the league. And then we also have the number 2 overall picks. I think the idea is Washington wants to completely reset and change things. Going into the season, going into next season, big free agents are Cameron Curl. Like we love Cam Curl. He's a strong safety. We view him as a borderline Pro Bowler here in DC. Curtis Samuel, who I like a lot, I think is a versatile piece. Those are people that are on contract years, but then we also have veterans like Charles Leno, our left tackle, who's pretty expensive. It's pretty easy to get rid of and get some money back. Jonathan Allen, like we love Jonathan Allen, but he's showing some displeasure. Yes. He's used to winning in Alabama. He's used to being a champion. Now he's in 7 years in DC. Like, he's seeing Montez Sweat thriving and Chase Young making the Pro Bowl, which is crazy. He's seeing all that happening. And he's like, maybe I want to go too. So I wouldn't be surprised if even Jonathan Allen moved this offseason, which is kind of, maybe that's a big eye opener to you guys, but I think it's like
I want him, George. I'm gonna keep it real. I want Jonathan Allen because I seen his rant. When y'all played, I seen his. Who did y'all play? Was it Philly? I think it was Philly. Y'all,
Philly.
And y'all banged. I think y'all got beat up that game, and he was just like, hey, I'm tired of this. I'm effing tired of this. You damn right, I'm pissed, and you could see it all over his face. But I felt like that's passion too. That I care that much that I need to win. Now I know my Cowboys ain't gonna jump out there, but please, Cowboys, just look at him, please. I know he's gonna cost a lot of money, but we need a defensive tackle too, George. I mean, obviously.
Go ahead. So, no, I was gonna say, like, go ahead, whatever. So what I was gonna say is Jonathan Allen. I love the guy. Like, I think he is the epitome of a professional. He puts his heart on his sleeve. He plays his ass off. If you ever watching the games, he's the guy giving the pregame speeches. He's the guy getting fired
Yes.
up. He's the veteran.
Yes.
I just think it's worn out over on him for years.
Yes.
And it's like, he's a winner, and he's always been a winner, and he's always been the consummate professional. Like, what I like about him, well, like, we'll talk about Chase Young a little bit too. What I like about Jonathan Allen is he franchise. It'd be like we'd have a tough loss. Jonathan Allen's the one that's sitting up, taking all those hard questions. He's the one doing all that type of stuff. He's the one when we're having like the season ticket holder events. He's the one that's there. He's the one basically kind of like being that representative, the ambassador for our team. While Chase Young was the complete opposite. Chase Young was like, he'd want all the star power, all the attention, but when it came out of tough stuff, he wasn't there, right? So I respect John in regard to that, but I just think he's worn out, man. Like, just the reason I'm even bringing up Chase Young and Jonathan Allen is because recently we've heard some conversations about how like Chase Young would be really vocal and loud in the locker room, but also not necessarily follow the scheme.
Mm-hmm.
And Jonathan Allen was like, but he'd also get all the credit, and we could get a lot of the props. And John was like, I'm a good soldier. I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. I'm doing everything the right way, but I'm not like, why is this guy getting away from not following the rules while I'm doing the right thing?
Right.
So I think he was kind of just being frustrated.
Mm-hmm.
So I can see him potentially looking elsewhere. And to circle back, I know we went on a tangent. I think Sam Howell's going to start this game. I think he did basically, there's Jacoby Brissett has a hamstring issue going on right now, but I think it's a business decision as well. Jacoby Brissett, he came in twice to relieve Sam Howell the last couple of games, lit it up.
Right.
I think he had 5 drives, 5
Yes.
touchdowns even. Like, it's been ridiculous.
Yes.
I think Brissett's like, why would I go into a game where it's like, I'm facing the Cowboys.
We're gonna come all out, right?
Blitz, whatever. Why are you gonna look bad in that last game where you're looking fantastic right now on tape?
Mm-hmm.
So, but full circle. I think the players that are going to play are going to play hard because they're playing for their jobs. They're going to be like first, second year players busting their butts, but it's like is that talent level going to match up?
Yeah. And like I said, man, if I know Dallas probably would never do something like that because that's just a lot of money. He might be a little older. I mean, they'll probably take draft picks. I mean, you probably.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing, though, George. We've seen top players go for not these first round, second round. We've seen teams really finagle where we're like, dang, you got him for that. I wonder if I just feel like we wouldn't get a Jonathan Allen because too many teams would want him. Too many teams would want that type of player for what you just said. I would love for him to be in our locker room right now. To your point, he does take the bullets. He is a stand-up guy. And when I saw that video, I said that's the first time I really saw Jonathan Allen really speak like that. And when I saw him, George, I said, man, I want him on my team. I want that type of player on my team. Not saying we don't, but I want to add him to the team. And at the defensive tackle position, right now we have Mozzie. We're having issues with Mozzie.
I was wondering about him. How's he doing?
He's not doing that good. He's lost a lot of weight. Okay. He was supposed to be the space eater. He's not. They have him trying to rush the passer. We lost Jonathan Hankins for a little bit. And the thing is, we got rid of Bohanna. So we're really light in the defensive tackle position once again.
Mozzie was never a pass rusher, right? He was supposed to be like a run stopper, like a 0-1 technique kind of guy. Yeah, that's what I thought of.
That's what we brought him in as, and that's what we thought he was going to do. But they also said, we want to do some pass rushing with him. So I don't know if that kind of overtook that part of it. But my thought was you're supposed to have him as be a space seer at 334 pounds. Now he's at 297 pounds right now. And that's crazy. But I got some other stuff on that. But it's just the fact that we need another defensive tackle. We're going to have to draft one or they're going to have to pick up one. And Jonathan Allen would be a perfect piece in Dallas. I know Dallas would love them draft picks. But this guy right here could really set off your defense because he is that guy at that defensive tackle position. He is that guy. So I would love for something like that to happen. So let's talk about, we talked about Sam Howell's probably going to be starting in this game. Offensively, your receivers, I want to talk about Terry McLaurin. Like, I heard him say something. I don't know if he said, man, I want to experience something like that. I want to be able to. Is he going to be in the fold for you guys? Are y'all looking to re-sign him? Is he that guy that y'all want to continue to bring back? Or is what's up with him?
So I'm going to double dip on this because Frederick asked about Deron Payne.
Okay.
There are two players on the team that are untouchable because of their contracts. It's Deron Payne and Terry McLaurin.
He just signed,
over the past 2 years, they basically signed both of them to an extension. Right. And I think Terry McLaurin has like a $30-40 million salary cap hit. And I don't think they'll get rid of him. Terry, man, Terry is the offensive version of Jonathan Allen. Like I think that's the one thing Ron Rivera did well, and we kind of like get on him a little bit in the DC area. He loves like military boys. He loves like Boy Scout kind of players. Ron's dad was a former military person, so he really respects culture and accountability and kind of speaking up. And Terry McLaurin is that guy. Terry McLaurin is like viewed very highly in DC. He is basically, we view him like we thought top 10, top 12 player in the league. We really like, we view him very highly. I think he is a bad fit for Eric Bieniemy, and I think what happened was they haven't said it yet because Terry is so professional. I think he's starting to crack now. We're starting to hear that now a little bit now. But basically, I think him and EB kind of had some friction earlier in the year. And we're starting to see it now. We all thought that Terry McLaurin would take that next step and take the next level with EB and with Sam Howell. The biggest knock on McLaurin was he never really had a quarterback, right? He had Taylor Heineke and Dwayne Haskins, and he had, Alex Smith that was injured. There's always different, like there's a cycle of quarterbacks that are going through. So I think, we thought that with Sam Howell, with a big arm quarterback, we started to see some production with McLaurin. The problem is EB, he basically, he has an offense where it's very like, it's more read given as opposed to player given, if that makes any sense, right? So it's like you're distributing the ball. You're like a point guard. You're basically throwing it to different concepts as opposed to Terry McLaurin. So Terry's kind of been faded out in regard to like being featured, and I think Terry's upset with that because he's like, you know what, like, I'm good enough. I can take over the game. I want to be the leader. Like throw it to me. I want to make that big play on third down, and it's not going there. And I think between the scheme and between Sam Howell's kind of inexperience, I think that's kind of not meshing well. Like tomorrow when we watch the game, Sam basically, he gets pressure in his face and they'll check it down. They'll basically throw little like screens and they'll kind of like throw down to the running backs where it's like, take that shot to the middle of the field, take that shot downfield. What's up, my boy Steve? Command this podcast, James. If you ever want to know someone else to connect with, they're really good. They're awesome content creators. They're awesome. Steve, Dev, and Phil, they're awesome up there. What's
up, guys? I'm glad you jumped in. That's awesome that you jumped in over here. Salutes to you. And I want to ask you about this Eric Bieniemy thing. Obviously, he came over. He's the offensive coordinator now. If Ron Rivera is gone, what is Eric Bieniemy? Is he where is he at? Because you just said with Terry McLaurin, it was not that great relationship right there. How has that season been for you, in your opinion, with Bieniemy as the guy? And is he going to be in the future?
So that's an interesting one. Actually, I put a poll up yesterday. I don't know if you saw it, James. I put it on Twitter. I said, fan poll, what would you want that new dynamic for our head coaches to be for next year, right? So I'm looking at it right now, 830 votes. I asked if you wanted to keep Eric Bieniemy and add a defensive head coach, going to have that dynamic because Eric Bieniemy is the offensive guy. Only 9% of the votes want EB back in DC. Ooh. 61% still want an offensive head coach. They want an offensive head coach. They want to get a new defensive coordinator. Bieniemy is polarizing, man. I think I like Eric Bieniemy, but I think there's some flaws in his strategy. Okay. So things I like about him. I think that he brings discipline to the team. He brings fire to the team. He changed things. When he came from Kansas City to Washington, he wanted to kind of like be a spark plug for that character change. Like he revamped our schedule during during training camp. He put offense first, and he really is working. He really wanted to develop Sam Howell, and he brought Ron Rivera gave him carte blanche. You can do whatever you want. You run the offense is on you. What happened was Eric Bieniemy walked out, and he was basically a pass-first offensive coordinator. Which, to be honest with you, as a analytical guy, as someone, I love that kind of stuff. I want to be a pass-first. I want to have explosive plays and things like that. Eric Bieniemy went all in, and it was kind of a mixed bag. It was awesome because, at first, Sam Howell was thriving, and I was like, "Oh, this is awesome." You kind of like throwing him in the deep end. You're throwing a quarterback in the deep end. He's throwing the ball 40, 50 times a game. And you're like, he actually was doing pretty well, 300-yard games, 2 touchdown games. And we're like, yeah, that's how you do it. Like maybe you shouldn't be holding the person's hand. Like, let him be exposed to everything. But as time went on, our offensive line wasn't built for it. We weren't running the ball nearly enough. Somehow I was getting hit and started to see ghosts as the years go on. So, I think he's kind of polarizing. We do feel like he is creative. Our red zone offense is number 6 in the entire NFL. He actually has a pretty dynamic red zone offense. But I think people are worried that basically he passes the ball too much and it's kind of hampering Sam Howell. Sam Howell's broken now. And for those of you OG Cowboy fans, I don't know if you guys remember Patrick Ramsey.
Yeah, I remember Patrick Ramsey.
and Jason Campbell. Like, we used to have those guys where it's like we would have them pass the ball all the time, but we ruined them because it would be hit all the time.
Yes.
So I think people are kind of worried about that. I think they're worried about EB in regard to that. So I like him, but I think it's going to be, I think with Ron Rivera, with Jason Wright, even our president, I think with all the holdovers, the incumbent people from Dan Snyder, I think they're trying to wipe all that out and start fresh. I think we're starting from ground up.
You know what, it's tough because I was listening to Terry and you know how you talked about that, but I feel like, man, give Eric at least one more season, 1 year. You feel me? And you threw him in the fold with Ron Rivera. At least I think that should be a dynamic. And I understand what you're talking about, leaving the guys exposed, throwing, and then after a while you start getting hit. I get that. But I feel like, you know what, Bieniemy wouldn't be bad for y'all for another year. Like you said, he installed discipline. That's what you guys really wanted to get. And you're turning on a new chapter. And he's an aggressive play caller, right? He is aggressive. Yeah. He doesn't sit back. He goes after it. And that's the type of play callers you want, in my opinion. I want an aggressive play caller. I want
exactly.
I don't want no scary ass play caller, dog. I want somebody who's aggressive. Doesn't play around, no conservative. I don't like that kind of stuff. So I personally think he should get another chance. Now, you said as far as like your defensive side, you said you want to get a defensive coordinator, right?
Yeah, we want to get one. Like, I think people want an offensive-minded head coach, because we're seeing that like Mike McDaniel, Sean McVay, Scott Shanahan, but we need a new defensive coordinator. Like, James, in my opinion, man, the biggest problem this year was our defense. I think our defense was worse than our offense, in our opinion. And I talk with Steve all the time about this. We're in a group chat. Like, he definitely felt that like we left him high and dry and not running the ball often enough, because Brian Robinson, actually, you guys will see tomorrow, he's actually one of our best players on offense.
He's nice.
He's not. I like him. Dude.
Nice.
I really do. I think he was a kind of a bruiser at Alabama, more like a 3 yards in a cloud of dust kind of guy. But I think one thing we have to give Bieniemy credit for is kind of untapped his pass catching ability. You're going to see him coming out of the backfield and basically, I like him. I think it's a good building block moving forward.
Yeah. You're right. He coming with some good stuff. Like I said, I like listening to this intel over here because I feel like if you guys make a few shrewd moves, and you guys will be right back in the mix in the NFC East. I feel like because you guys have talent, I feel like if you just a few shrewd moves, y'all can get right back in the fold in that East. Now, I want to ask you about your draft picks. We already talked about your top pick. What are your needs going into this draft? What are your top needs from the Washington side?
So there's a lot, man. I know it sounds funny to say, but I mean, when you're 4-12, right, 4-13, whatever you are, you basically got a lot to fix. And I think, but at the same time, the NFL, you can kind of flip things over quickly with good coaching. I think, honestly, coaching hurt us the most this year, and I think players giving up. I know it's not, the players will never say it.
Yeah.
We talked about it. Once Montez Sweat, you can see it. Once Montez Sweat, Chase Young walked out, it was like, you know what? Like, the team was kind of walking. Even Montez Sweat alluded to it. It's like, here in the Bears, we're fighting, we're trying to get our wins, but people in DC are waiting for the year to end. And that's kind of where we're at. I see what Utah's saying. Utah's one of my boys in the group chat as well. I think for one, QB for sure. I think QB is definitely something we're intrigued by. I think we can get by with Sam Howell, but with that high draft pick, if the upside is too tantalizing,
right,
why would we turn that down?
Right.
Right? I think that's kind of where we're there. Right. Offensive line, all across the board. We have one. Sam Cosby, our right guard, is probably the offensive lineman we feel the most confident with. The other four are kind of like we're up in the air. Like, we can do it. Like, our tackles are mediocre. Our left guard and center are kind of a worry right now. We drafted a couple young guys last year that haven't developed yet, so we're not really confident in them. So our offensive line, that's definitely one. I think, big picture, I think we need a CB1 still. Like, we got Emmanuel Forbes last year. I don't know if you were following the draft. I'm sure you were. Yeah. And Emmanuel Forbes is kind of an undersized cornerback. Small. And I like him. He has an upside to kind of get a turnover, but like, in my perspective, he's polarizing in our fan base. In my perspective, you could see the reluctance to be a run supporter and a tackle because he's small, man. 165. He's like 165, 170.
I seen him when he went to tackle AJ Brown out. It was hilarious. I went to see him tackle, and he got real aggressive with trying to tackle him. AJ Brown just threw him off with one arm and just looked at him like he gave him that look like you're too small.
And that was the beginning of the end. I think that was the game to turn things. Because like Jack Del Rio's like, we're baptism by fire, just like Sam Howell. We're gonna put him on AJ Brown. We're gonna see what happens. And that was when AJ Brown was cooking. Right. AJ Brown was averaging like 130 yards per game. was kind of a big task to ask for him, but whatever. But so I think if you're going to rank him, QB for sure, offensive line number 2, tight end, linebacker, and then cornerback. Our defense statistically is the worst in the league. I think a lot of it was bad coaching, but I think we do need a talent influx too. I think we missed on some draft picks and it's showing right now.
Do you like Forbes though, right? You think you like him heading, you like him in the future?
So for me, I think Forbes is a piece. I don't think he is the piece. Like he might surprise me. I think we drafted him to be like Marcus Peters, a CB1 dog. I'm gonna pick the ball off, 1-on-1. I'm gonna split line up against CeeDee Lamb and AJ Brown. I don't know if he'll ever get there. If he does, I would love it because I think in regard to personality, in regard to the person, good person, swag, the aesthetic is lovely. you want him to be a good player. You know what I'm saying? You want him to be awesome, but I think he'll get some interceptions, but I don't know if he's going to be CB1. I think he'd be a good, you deploy him in a zone, you kind of put him out there, on nickel packages and stuff like that, picking the ball up. But I don't think he's a true CB1 right now, in my opinion. But maybe I'm harder on him than other people.
Okay. Now, as far as your draft this past season, what would you your draft?
Oh, this year's draft?
Mm-hmm.
I think F, dude. I think it's real bad. I think it's kind of across the board. People kind of it's common conversation around here in DC. I think we whiffed. We got Emmanuel Forbes in the first round. Emmanuel Forbes hasn't been playing. I don't know if you guys have been keeping up. He plays sparingly. He's been benched often this year. Hasn't been getting a lot of time. Our second round pick, Quan Martin. He started off the year slow, but he's starting actually to uptick a little bit. Quan Martin is probably one of the our rookies that are starting to show some promise. He plays a pretty complex role coming out of Illinois. He's kind of a hybrid where he basically plays like a nickel cornerback, but also plays safety. He'll probably play both tomorrow as well. We had Braden Daniels, Ricky Stromberg. They're both offensive linemen. Ricky Stromberg was SEC Offensive Lineman of the Year as a center coming out. I forget where school he came out of, but he basically was supposed to be, I think maybe Arkansas, but he's supposed to be our starting center or potentially fighting for it, but he's on IR. Our fourth round pick isn't even playing right now. And then Chris Rodriguez, who you'll probably see tomorrow a lot. We like him, actually. So he's kind of an intriguing player. He's a running back out of Kentucky. He brings a little fire. He falls forward. So we have a couple of intriguing pieces, but considering the value and considering the high draft capital, our first and second round pick hitting and being immediate starters are a whiff right now. 1, 2, 3, right now we have a reserve, flexible position flex defensive back out of our top three picks, which is nothing you want, so hopefully we'll do better.
Yeah. And so really you said you're looking possibly going to get a new GM. So that's going to be critical, right? When you're talking about going into the draft, a new GM, this draft you're getting, with the influx of everything new, this is going to be a critical possible draft for your team.
Absolutely.
Because this could get you could have an awesome draft, great GM, and that could just go from back here to here. 1 year, it can really turn in 1 year. So this offseason is going to be really critical for the Commanders side, in my opinion, because we've seen the talent, but it just hasn't rose to the top. And now with the breakdown of the team, Magic Johnson, all the influx of new ownership, we're all kind of looking back and seeing what's this Commanders team going to be in the future. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
You said you had some questions for me with them Cowboys. What's some questions, big dog?
How you feeling, man? How you feeling going in this game? How you feeling going in the playoffs? So for me, from an outside perspective, Dak Prescott, man, caught on fire in the middle. I have him on my fantasy team, to be honest. We have him and Lamar. So obviously I won the championship this year. Exactly. But basically, so what's the feeling in Dak? Let's start off with him. I know he's a really polarizing player in Dallas. As a Washington fan, I respect him. I like Dak Prescott. I think there have been players in the past, arrogant, talking, flame, big personality, but Dak seems like a good, genuine person altogether. He's a good player. What's the perspective? What's the viewpoint of him in Dallas right now?
I mean, obviously he's killing it. 32 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. What a bounce back season. I've been on record and saying I thought he had peaked. I thought he had got to that level and wasn't just going to get any higher. But, Mike McCarthy came in and really just gave him the offense. That dynamic between them two, to me, has really taken off. I'm happy about that. And I honestly, let's just keep it real. It's the playoffs, dog. I mean, everybody's
Mhm.
waiting on these playoffs. The haters are on sitting on one side, ready to say, "Yeah, he did all that in the regular season, and what happened?" So this is what it is. This is our this going into these playoffs. I'm gonna be honest with you. This is probably I said a couple years ago. Well, last year, this was a critical playoffs for Mike McCarthy because people were wondering, are you going to win in these playoffs? We lost in 2021 in that divisional round, and people were frustrated. So I said, this is critical. He's got to beat these Buccaneers. And we did. We beat the Buccaneers. But now when we look at this season going into the playoffs, George,
Mhm.
this is an even playing field. There is no, like you said, the Aaron Rodgers, the Tom Brady's, all these top QBs are gone out the NFC. Okay.
Yeah.
Brock Purdy, he's good. Okay. But I ain't tripping
Yeah.
off no Brock Purdy. If you look at across the board in these playoffs, this is the most opportune time for our team to take it. So for at least from my perspective, this is no excuses. Like Mike McCarthy, Dan Quinn, y'all have this is for the taking. This playoffs this year is for the taking. So I think a lot of us are really anticipating. We just had Jimmy Johnson put in the Ring of Honor. So a lot of people are really anticipating that we have the team to really take it to the next level going into these playoffs. So I think a lot of our fans are in the spec of, I mean, no excuses. This is here. You can win it. You
Yeah.
can. You can win it. Philadelphia is struggling. San Francisco, damn,
Philadelphia's struggling.
struggling, struggling.
I'm not worried about Philly at
You feel
all, man.
me?
Like earlier in the year, I was worried about them. Like I think they're gonna get knocked out pretty early, to be honest. And especially if you guys win the division and they have to go a longer path. I don't see Philly going anywhere. I think Philly's spiraling right now. Their defense really isn't that strong. I'm not concerned about Philadelphia. Maybe that's arrogant to say, but I'm not high on them.
Yeah, I'm not high on them either. And that's what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying. They're not playing good football right now. Rams,
Mm-hmm.
we ain't tripping on no Rams. Packers are dangerous, but still, they got an atrocious defense. Jordan Love ain't been to playoffs yet. You don't know what you're going to see in him. Really, the
Yeah.
favorite is San Francisco, but as I said before, they can be beat. We seen this year they can be beat. You can beat them, so we don't need to go in there like scared of them either. This, like I said, George, this is the most opportune time for us to take it to the next level.
You guys looking good. You guys are a very well-rounded team. I'll give you credit on that. Like for one, I love the NFC. I think the NFC is so intriguing.
Mm-hmm.
Like all year long, going into the year, I was like, the AFC is going to dominate. The AFC has the quarterbacks. The AFC is going to rock out. But it's like I love the NFC. I think you guys are a well-rounded team. Like we're going to talk about Dan Quinn in a minute. Like I think your defense is cooking, man. I think Dak has gone to the next level. I think he's playing where we wanted, like where you guys wanted him to be, right? And then now Dan Quinn is so creative and so dynamic with his defense. Like as a Washington fan, I think Dan is like so intriguing, right? Because I think he has Micah Parsons being, stand up, moving different positions up and down the line, but he's also generating turnovers. And I think turnovers are so important in the NFL nowadays. And it's like, I think Dan Quinn's scheme is probably more impressive than the players. I don't know if you agree with that at all. Like, because you have like Trayvon Diggs, you have Diggs, whatever, getting those interceptions. He goes down. Bland walks out and does the exact same thing. So to me, that's scheme over player. Like, what's your thought on Dan Quinn? What are your thoughts on the players on defense? I'm kind of curious about that.
I like Dan Quinn, but I think Dan Quinn sometimes gets a little too razzle dazzle, real too freaky with it. And we're a big time stunt team. We love to stunt, and sometimes I feel like it contradicts what we're trying to do. Is teams see that and they'll start trying to run at us. We're stunting, gaps are open, and the next thing you're hitting it. I like Dan Quinn, okay, but I just like Dan Quinn. Just make sure, be like that all game. Because like when we played the Lions, you had them shut down all game, then they have the last drive to take it right down the field and score. You feel what I'm saying? Like we need you to be like consistent like all the time. And when we talk about Michael Parsons moving around, we gonna go ahead and pat ourselves on the back over here, George, at the Cowboys Twitter. We go ham on Twitter. Okay. And
that's what we do in DC too,
and them Cowboys people can't act like they don't hear us, because when we rant on Twitter, when we rant at a specific thing on Twitter, it seems to happen the next week. We were ranting about Mike McCarthy. We're like, bro, are you going to be conservative? Don't do this conservative stuff because that's what you're going to do. Then we all going to be mad at you because why'd you get rid of Kellen Moore if you're going to do this goofy stuff? Right after that, because he was trying to run. And we're like, no, we need to be a passing team. When you need to put this on Dak, you said it was his offense, then put it on him. Right after,
I'm surprised by McCarthy. To be honest with you, I didn't have any faith in Mike McCarthy. I was like, you know what? Like, he's one and done. He's not going to be a coach anymore. I thought he was going to get knocked out, honestly. But like, I'm surprised. I mean, he unlocked something, and it's working right now. And then going back with Micah Parsons, like, I'll be honest with you, as someone that watches tapes, someone that cares about my team a lot, someone that creates content, I watched Micah Parsons. I'm like, that's what we should have done with Chase Young. I love what you guys did with him, moving him up down the field, sitting up and doing all that. Like, that's a kudos to Dan Quinn, kudos to whoever did the Dallas Twitter for hyping it up to do that. That basically is something that we try to get that going on. But like, Jack Del Rio was a bad defensive coordinator here in DC. And ended up being pretty poor. Real quick question, kind of a funny question. That Detroit-Dallas game, and I was watching that live. How do you feel about that last play of the game? What were your thoughts on that, man? You feel you got away with one or what?
I'm going to keep it real. Maybe we did get away with one, but I don't care because guess what?
If we would
have lost that and we would have been crying the blues, everybody would have been like, shut up. You know what I'm saying? Everybody been like, shut up. So I don't feel bad that the Detroit Lions lost. They over there talking all this trash now. We got confidence. We can't wait to play them again. Man, we kept them in the game. If you watch the game, Dallas kept Detroit in the game. We were about to take the 14-3 lead. CeeDee Lamb fumbles the ball right at the goal line. You know what I'm saying? That changed the game right there because we were all up over them. So I ain't nobody tripping off Detroit. Yeah, it could have been a suspect call. I can say that because players are saying it was legal. I don't care if it was legal or if it wasn't legal. They threw the flag. We won the damn game, and hopefully you want your revenge. Then Lions keep on winning and let's meet back in the playoffs. You get what I'm saying? So I don't feel bad for them.
Great game.
I don't care about that. It was a great game.
Yeah, of course.
Detroit's a good team, but I feel like we were better anyway.
As a home fan, you're not gonna. A win's a win. Keep it moving, right? That's where we're at right there. Exactly. Yeah. Are there any concerns going into the playoffs? Is there a position concern, a team concern? Is there anything that you're worried about going in like over the next couple of weeks?
I think the biggest concern with me, we've been talking about it all week, is I want you to understand how I'm gonna say this. I don't lack the confidence in Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn, but this is the year, guys, that I just talked to you about it, George. This is the year that y'all really need to show your coach in the playoffs. First year in 2021, I hated it because Mike McCarthy said he came out and said we were nervous. That pissed me off. I never want him to say nothing like that again. Like, as a coach, you don't ever come out and say, "Oh, I thought we were nervous." You know, you're the coach. You're supposed to know. You
too honest.
You feel me? You're supposed to know. You're not. So, but last year, I liked the way we played because I felt like we should have beat the Niners. But this year, year 3, this is a critical year, George. This is all I'm saying. This is a critical year because our team can totally change next year if you don't.
That's my last question I'm going to ask you in a second.
Yeah, I mean, because it can change. We got free agents. We got people getting ready to get paid. And if Mike McCarthy, if it like first round, if you flop, it's bad. It's going to be bad. It's going to be real bad. So I feel like Mike McCarthy.
In danger of his job? I was going to ask you about that.
I don't think his job's going to be at stake. I don't think his job's at stake because I'm sorry. In my opinion, you just can't fire somebody who had 3 straight double-digit win seasons for your team.
Yeah, come on.
We haven't had that since the 90s. I think there has been a better culture change within the team. I think the team is really together. I think the team likes each other. I think they like Mike McCarthy. Now it's Mike McCarthy. You won a Super Bowl. Dan Quinn, you've been to a Super Bowl. So both of y'all have Super Bowl experience. I need to see that Super Bowl coaching experience in these playoffs this year because you have the grand opportunity to possibly get to a chip. You have a grand opportunity to possibly play all three games at home, depending on how it falls. So this is a grand opportunity, in my opinion. I don't feel like people are going to get fired, but I definitely feel like there will be frustration in these streets, but firing, I don't think so. If I'm Jerry, I wouldn't fire him unless it was not even if it was bad. Like it's hard to replace coaches, and who would you replace? Because Jerry Jones is not going to get one of these young up and comers because he doesn't have the patience to wait because he's older. So he would go with more the veteran side. Who is out there on the veteran side? Nobody really. So who are you really going to replace him with? And that's what I've been throwing in.
Harbaugh potentially.
Harbaugh would be the only one that I would look at because what he did when he came with San Francisco and plus his brother, they got good traits. You feel what I'm saying? They got good coaching traits. That would be the only guy I would look at, in my opinion, because as I said, he's going to go with a more veteran coach. And who is out there as a veteran coach that's going to really take us to the next level, get us to double-digit wins? I need to know that because ain't nobody talking about no Belichick. So that's why I'm saying it's critical for Mike McCarthy because you could be the coach here for a very, very long time if you succeed in these playoffs. I've said we should at least get to an NFC championship, George. I'm not saying Super Bowl, but we should at least get to an
That's
NFC.
realistic, right? If
Very
you're in the
realistic.
division, it's what, one win, right? If there's someone, it's one
It'll
win,
be
right?
two
Isn't
wins
it? Two
because
wins. Okay, two
we'll
wins.
get the
Okay.
one home game and then we'll play somebody else and then we'll play a
Got you.
championship game.
Got you.
But
Okay.
this,
Got
if
you.
you're getting guaranteed 2 home games possibly, and you've been 16, 18 and 0 at home this year, you've been immaculate at home this year. It's been raucous. We understand our home crowd isn't the greatest all the time, but I've seen them when we played Philly. That crowd was crazy. So I feel like those home games will kind of really propel us to take it if we had to go to San Francisco or whatever, really get us right. So I don't feel like there's going to be any firings going on. If there's a failure, but I definitely feel like this is a year that you really should take it to a higher level in these playoffs because you have the team to do it. You have the offensive side of the ball. You have the defensive side of the ball. You have players, even though you have some players injured, you have players to be able to do it. Now you got to put together, show your Super Bowl experience on both sides and show it in these playoffs because it's right here, George. That's all I can keep on saying. It's right here.
It is.
Right here.
It's right. This is probably the best, most complete.
Yes.
This is your shot.
This is our shot.
Like,
this is our shot,
because you
George.
basically have the most well-rounded team. You guys have all the coordinators all together. Your players all under contract. Like, I think there's going to be some significant changes. What I'm going to ask, my last question I'll ask for you. Like, I think Dan Quinn's might leave, or there might be some players under contract that might leave as well. Like, when your team is clicking on all cylinders, like and the NFL is lightning in a bottle, right? Like right now, you guys might have the lightning in the bottle. You don't want to miss out on an opportunity, so you don't want things to fall apart. So my last question on that is transition. Like, what do you think is going to happen this offseason? Do you think there's going to be some major changes? What are you guys looking at the draft? Like, what's any big contracts that are kind of moving around too? Like, we can kind of close up on that.
Well, obviously, Dak Prescott's contract is coming up, and they're talking about the one.
Oh, right. No, I thought he was good for a couple years.
Yeah, no, next year will be kind of, I think, his like last year, and they're talking about the extension. So, and they're talking about 55 to 60 million. So, I don't know where Stephen Jones is because Stephen Jones don't like to spend that money. And then also you got Micah right around the corner. CeeDee Lamb is right here. You did the 5th-year option, and you've seen what he's done this year.
CeeDee Lamb's legit. Like you and I. The reason why you and I work, James, is because we were honest with each other. Like I'm not a rah fan where I go crazy. Like I think CeeDee Lamb is legit, man. Actually, I had him on my fantasy team this year too, and I love him in PPR, man. He eats it up. And what I like about him, he is a third down like slot machine. You basically just constantly getting thirds down over and over again. That's what you want from a wide receiver one. CeeDee Lamb, I think, on offense, he's the most impressive player to me on your offense.
And that's what just to your point, where everybody was kind of hating on him because he just plays in the slot. No, he doesn't. When you have a receiver just like Micah Parsons, you have a Micah Parsons where you don't have to relegate him to one position. You don't have to just have him on the edge. You can move him at linebacker. That makes it that much better for your team. It's the same with CeeDee Lamb. You don't have to just keep him on the outside. Well, you can see matchups. He's good enough to jump right in the slot and kill that corner. He can jump on the outside and beat one-on-ones. That's the type of receiver you want that you can't relegate to one side of the field. Somebody who you can move all the way around and get and see potential matchups. Because when you see those matchups and then you see Dak Prescott running the offense the way it is, those two, to me, in my opinion, are the best quarterback wide receiver tandem in the NFL right now. So as far as when you're talking about the offseason, CeeDee Lamb needs to get signed. They're talking about him being 30 million. Dak Prescott possibly 55, 60 million. Micah Parsons is going to set the whole damn standard. He's going to break the whole bank. He's setting the standard.
3 huge contracts coming up.
So you got 3 huge contracts. So that's
how much money do you guys have? What's a salary cap? You guys know?
Our salary, we're not. I don't know exactly, but we're not in salary cap hell. Stephen Jones manages that cap. That's one thing he does. So we're not in cap hell or anything like that. But if you're talking about going to the next level, it'll be easier, I would say, maybe for Stephen Jones and them, if we have an successful playoffs for you to say, let's go ahead and pay these guys. You get what I'm saying?
Makes sense, right?
So because if we fail,
pay for producing.
Yes, I feel like if we fail and we fail bad, then I think Steven's going to be holding on to that wallet and start being funny. Like, I don't want to be doing this and doing that. So I think this playoff, because I looked at it like this, George. We went out and got free agents this year. We don't never do that. We went out and got Brandon Cook.
Yeah, I saw that.
We went out and got Stephen Gilmore. We drafted a defensive tackle. Although he hasn't been great, That's the first time we had drafted defensive tackle in the first round in over 20 years. So that right there. Then you had Jerry coming out of nowhere, putting Jimmy Johnson Ring of Honor. So I feel like ownership believes in this team, believes this team.
That was surprising as someone that follow, I'm an NFC East guy.
It came out of nowhere.
Yeah.
You feel me? So I feel like they're looking at this team like, we may have something here, so let's do everything we can to make it happen. So I feel like ownership kind of pushed their chips all in. And so that's why I feel like we got to have a successful playoffs, because ownership said, okay, we tired of hearing all this noise. Let's go ahead and put our chips in and let's see what happens. So the players and the coaches have to show that they went all in. Y'all need to handle y'all business in these playoffs, because as I said before, if you don't, I don't know if Dan Quinn's coming back, because people are still talking about him being a head coach in the game. If we don't have a successful season, maybe it'd be easier for him to walk away. Then you got to start over with a defensive coordinator. Although I think they could promote.
My name in DC.
Don't do that. No, don't speak nothing like that. Don't speak nothing like that. But I think if he were to leave, then maybe Al Harris could be elevated, because Al Harris is playing great, is coaching crazy this year. So I could see that as being a transition. But if we don't win this year, or at least get to a championship, yes, I feel like there are going to be changes. People are going to hold on to their wallets. Now we're going to start hearing that noise, especially with Dak Prescott, because I feel like Dak Prescott has to have a really good playoffs. They're putting it on him as far as the offense. It's pretty much been his offense. He can really secure that contract and be his career, probably possibly retiring here in Dallas. If he has,
I'll be surprised if he left. I think Jerry, from what I understand, Jerry likes to have like marquee players, like, that whole 88 wide receiver type of thing, all this type of deal. Like classic players that like to keep around for marketing purpose. I feel like he wouldn't want to let Dak walk, in my opinion. I don't know if you agree to that, but I think so.
I think he loves Dak, but Stephen Jones is the one I'm worried about, because I think Jerry is more the voice now. He just talks, but Stephen is back here making these moves and doing the money thing. So Jerry, be the voice, has the money, but Stephen's like, don't do that, or let's not do this. So I think, and Stephen was the main one balking at Dak getting his contract anyway. He was the main one that was the most vocal one out there in the media talking about, well, we got to make sure we got to pay everybody. We got this contract coming up. Dak's got to know that. We got that contract coming up. So he was the most vocal with Dak. So that's the thing that I'm looking at. That's why I want Dak to have a successful playoffs. So it can't give any reason for Stephen Jones to go start being cheap.
Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, so that's kind of where we're at, man. So I really appreciate you. We're coming up on an hour, man. I'm glad we got to jump on here. We didn't get to do it the first time, but I'm glad, because I love the intel that you give from the Washington side. It gives me a lot of good perspective, because I like looking at other NFC East teams, but I love being able to talk to their content creators who really are in the mix to really know. So when I'm looking at Washington, because ain't nobody always looking at Dallas. So when I'm looking at Washington, I can go back and say, okay, this is what George said, that this is what they might do. So I'm going to look to see right here, or this is what George had talked to me on this show, and I'm kind of going to look at it. So that's why I really appreciate you, Cowboys fans. Please, I know he's Washington, but this man knows his stuff. He's a great content creator out there. So please, before we get off here, George, let them know how they can continue to watch you, Twitter, all those good handles, all that good stuff, big dog.
No, so first of all, man, I appreciate being on the show, man. I love talking to you all the time. Like me and Joe got to connect with the NFC East, like round table, and talk about all that. I love to do that.
We just got to get a Giants guy, George. We just got to get.
Yeah, there's no Giants guys.
We got to find Giants guy, George.
We got to find one of them out there. But yeah, thanks guys for having me. I appreciate the fans in the chat are awesome. You have a great fan base. James are awesome. Thank you for respecting me and asking some questions in the chat. I appreciate it. I'm George Carmi at GCarmi21. Follow me on Twitter. I'm a NFL fan. I love the Commanders. I love to create content, but at the same time, I'm inquisitive. I think about other things. I look at a draft. Like I'm not necessarily super biased. So kind of all of that.
That's fact.
On YouTube, I have my own channel, Command the Mic. You guys can follow me on there. That'd be great. I'm independent there, but I also do a lot of side projects. This is what you guys are really be intrigued by is there's a group of us called the District Command Center. What we do is we get together as a bunch of content creators in DC, and we work together. And if you follow my Twitter, especially on Mondays and Wednesdays, we have some awesome content. On Mondays, we typically find like pretty big NFL names, and we've been lucky to get some pretty good polls. Like we'll get people from NFL.com to join our show and have some conversations on that. And then we also have two people in our DC circle that are from PFF. We have PFF Washington, and we have a person from The Athletic that come on constantly, and we're constantly doing film work. So on Monday, we're actually going to have His name's Mark Bullock from The Athletic. We basically look at scheme, and we're going to be basically looking at like potential offensive coordinators and head coaches in DC. And he really breaks down the X's and O's and does all the tape. So if you're into that kind of
Oh
stuff,
yes.
check us out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, yeah.
It'll be awesome.
We love film and we love tape, especially, because, people can talk about it, but when you throw that film on, that changes the game. We like to do it on our show called The Final Word. We always say, let's go to the tape. You know what I mean? Like, we can talk about this, but let's go to the tape, because we can say these things, but when you go to the tape and actually showing it, it's a different feel and it's a different vibe. And so I definitely feel that. And it gets you better. I don't know everything there is on the football field. Coverages, I know a lot, but I still need to learn. So I love getting involved with other people who may have that edge up over me, so I can learn from them. And that's how you continue to get better in these streets. You can never act like you're just so much that you can't ever learn. I'm always about learning and soaking up knowledge, especially when we're talking about the tape, because it just makes you a better content creator, just better all around. You know what I'm saying? When you're talking the game of football. So I definitely appreciate you about that. I appreciate you jumping on here once again. Another fire show. Love everybody in the chat. We had almost 200 in the chat, and George brought them. I'm James, but George brought them. You feel me? So salutes to you. We'll be watching that game tomorrow. We'll see how it goes. I hope your team does make business decisions all the way around. I hope your team says, well, we ain't worried about this game. We want to get that pick. I hope they do that to make it an easier road for Cowboys, because what we want to do, George, we want to get in this game and get out and rest our starters, because we want no injuries. That's the biggest thing for me in this game, George, is come out clean, no injuries. So the quicker we can jump on y'all and start getting a big cushion to put these backups in, that's what we want, because we need some guys healthy. Tyler Smith's got torn plantar fasciitis. So we got some guys that are injured that kind of need to get in and get out. So that'll be great for us to happen. Now, I'm actually going to stay here on here a little bit afterwards. So this will be our final today. Appreciate you once again. Please go check out George, man. He's got a lot of stuff going on. Like I said, he's just not a Washington guy. He's a football guy. So if you really check out his Twitter, it ain't all about Washington. And the thing I love about you, George, is you're always asking questions. When you're on your Twitter, you're always posing questions to the people. Like, okay, I'm talking about this, but what do y'all think? Yeah, and that's what I love about you, because you get some good feedback. Learn from other people. Yes, you get everybody talking. I think that's what I really love of what you really bring to the table, man. So salutes to you. We'll definitely be talking soon, and we'll definitely be going at it when we do our draft show, because we're going to have another draft show. Me, you, and Joe, we just got to find a Giants guy, and we're going to make that pop.
All right, y'all. Have a good day. Right. Enjoy the playoffs.
Appreciate you, dog. Peace. Yep. My God, George Carmi, man, great show. I loved having him in the fold. Love having him in the building. He really brings a lot to the table. Very knowledgeable guy. Like I said, not just about Washington, but the NFL. Actually, my dog Joe Castro knew George before me and introduced me to him. We had a Giants content creator, and we did a really good draft show. But George is really good with his stuff, man. And I can't wait to do our draft show this year. Obviously, we're going to the Senior Bowl. Me and Joe are, but we are going to do a draft type show and try to find a Giants content creator out there in these streets, so we can kind of do a 4-man thing with everybody and kind of break down what we're looking at in the draft going forward and even the season. So excited about that. Thank you for everybody. Etta was going hard as far as hitting the like buttons on here. We had a very good crowd. Appreciate everybody that was in the building today. Great questions from everybody. Just a great show overall. So really appreciate y'all. And I love the intel that he gave. That this is what I love what George said to me was, I wanted to know, are they going to play hard? Are they going to go hard? Is this going to be a game where we want Dallas, we want to spoil them? Because that's what I was worried about. They wanted to spoil our game. But from what I'm hearing from George is they want to keep that second pick. So, and it's not like they want to lose, but they want to lose. So we are looking at a lot of people making more business decisions and not really putting forth that effort, because they don't really want that game, because they want that pick over the game. So that's what I like hearing, is that this could be a game where Dallas can get in. So when we were talking about Mike McCarthy and Dan Quinn on our shows this week, you just heard it from George. A lot of them ain't really on it. So Cowboys, come into this Washington game full throttle. Don't play around. Don't try to run and keep them in the game. Blow these boys out. Rest your guys. Get your guys out in the first half. After the first half, if you can, let these backups play in that whole second half, and you just rest and get your mind right for these playoffs. And that's what I want, and that's what we want to happen tomorrow in that game. So hopefully that will be the outcome. So really appreciate everybody once again in the fold. Yeah, we're gonna end it with that. Usually, yeah, we're gonna end it with it. You know, we gotta end it with them Cowboys. Got to end it with that. Got to end it with that. Got to end it with that. There it is. Shout out to everybody in the building. What's up, What up, Clebo? What's up with you, big dog? I ain't seen you in a while. What's up with you, big dog? Appreciate you. Yeah, I'm gonna holler, and I'm gonna see landlord, y'all. Also, landlord is trying to get to that Senior Bowl as well. I got to send him something. Me and him just talked yesterday, so hopefully landlord is in the building because I know he went last year. I went 2 years before. Landlord went last year to the Senior Bowl because obviously he's in Alabama. So hopefully, we're definitely gonna link up down there. Hopefully, he can we can get him with a media credential so he can be there too. That would be awesome if me, landlord, and Joe Castro could be there. So hopefully that I'm going to send him some stuff. Hopefully he can get media credential, and if he could, that would be awesome. Get landlord down there, myself. That would be a banger. Senior Bowl with my guy Joe. That would be a banger. I don't know, Willie. I'm not saying I would promote him. I'm just saying that could be the thing with the Cowboys front office. I like Joe Witt Jr. too. So don't think I don't. I like Joe Witt Jr. But I'm talking about front office because Al Harris has been kind of like the favorite son right now. A lot of people like him. I wonder if they would elevate him. It wouldn't matter with me either way. I like Joe Witt because I think wasn't Witt with him in Atlanta too, if I'm not mistaken. If I'm not, so I like Joe Witt. Either one of them, I wouldn't trip on. So Willie T, I'm not choosing either one. I'm just saying front office may go that route with Al Harris being the more popular guy. So we'll see. So we will see. Good, man. Hey, it's good to see you. Shout out to you, Clebo. I'm glad that you're healthy and everything. We hadn't talked in so long since that daggone Giant stuff. So I'm glad to see you in the building. I'm glad to see you healthy. This man right here, I just want to say this before I get off here, Clebo. This man can whip the ride and talk like no other. He can whip the ride and talk like no other. So shout out to you, Clebo, for doing the damn thing. Yeah, so we're going to head up off here. I'm going to pull up this little Cowboys thing so y'all can see them Cowboys. Yeah. And then we will get out of here with how about them Cowboys? Click clack Cowboys. Like I said, Wild Boys from the QBDT and Cowboy. So peace. Talk to y'all tomorrow on that late night hype. Big Game James. I'm out. You know what it is. How about them mother-sucking Cowboys?
How about them Cowboys? Click like Cowboys. Make you say Wild Boys from the QBs, DTs, LBs, and the Cowboys. You tuning in to the team that win. Big Game, first name James. He interviewed, he called the games. Silver Blue, you know the name. From the Emmitt Smith to the Michael Irv. We beating skins, shooting birds. I see a bank and snatch it out his fur. Favorite team on the planet Earth. From Monday night to Sunday church. DJ putting in the work. I'm tuning in, no need to search. Through thick and thin and good and worse. Them Cowboys, click like Cowboys. Make you say Wild Boys from the QBs, DTs, LBs, and the Cowboys. You tuning in to the team that win. Tuning in to the team that win. Tuning in to the goddamn, they did it again. How about them Cowboys? Click like Cowboys. Make you say Wild Boys from the QBs, DTs, LBs, and the Cowboys. You tuning in to the team that win. Tuning in to the team that win. Tuning in to the team that silver and blue done did it again. Cowboys, from the QBs, DTs, LBs, and the Cowboys. You tuning in to the team that win. Tuning in to the team that win. Tuning in to the goddamn, they did it again. How about them Cowboys? Click clack Cowboys. Make you say wow boys, from the QBs, DTs, LBs, and the Cowboys. You tuning in to the team that win. Tuning in to the